Hey guys, yeah, as you guys know, I and Pradeep are out on weekend ride, and we are currently on Mangalore highway, and we found a beautiful spot here. It's sort of a trail. We did little bit of off-roading and then got to this place, and yeah guys, so this place is totally empty, not a soul here. So hopefully we can take out our mask and breathe peacefully. So guys, yeah, here are the bikes. We just did about say close to 100 kilometers today, and we are here. So guys, yeah, the topic of the day is from last 1 week Pradeep has been sort of teasing me, saying that hey, I found 25 plus points, which could be subjective things, like probably somebody might not like on this Honda CB350 Highness. So I'm very keen to know that, very eager to know what those 25 points are, because I could hardly find say couple of things on this bike which could have been better. But yeah, I like to turn this over to Pradeep to know more about those 25 points, what he feels are subjective or not so great things about this lovely bike. So yeah, Pradeep.
Yeah. So this is like an experiment. So think of this like an experiment. It's a thought experiment. So as most of you guys have been watching various reviews on these bikes so far, there are pretty much universal praises. There are glowing accolades. There are plaudits. Only the best things are coming out. Everything is nice. I decided to be a bit of a bad guy.
So yeah, Pradeep, as I just spoke to him, he's going to play the devil's advocate and tell us those points now.
Exactly.
I'm very interested to know what those things are. Yeah.
So I sat down with an open Word document on my desktop. I started typing anything and everything that started coming to my mind. And before I knew it, I had almost 25 plus points of discussion. These are not exactly cons, but these are not praises. Let me just put it that way. These are not praises. You can even think of it as a reality check, which is needed today in the grand scheme of things, right? So I have made a list of all the talking points here because I don't want to miss anything. And really, when you hear about a few of these points, you will actually realize that the devil actually lies in the details, right? That's the whole point. Some of these are absolute truths. I will say them. You will agree. You will have to agree. Some of these are very subjective. I will say something, you will not agree. You may say, "Arey kuch bhi bol raha hai," right? Some of these could be that, and some of it could be just niggles, small things, and some of it could be easy fixes as well, right? So there are all sorts of things. I will not tell you which are which. You get to decide. That's the best part. So without wasting much further time, let's get started.
Yeah, I think let's go point by point and see it on the bike.
See it on the bike, exactly.
Yeah.
So Vinay, if you just come to the front. So the first one I don't want to dwell much upon. It's something which we covered in the last video as well. I really don't like these front blinkers. I really don't like them being on all the time.
Okay.
If somebody can help me turn them off through sort of dewiring something in the assembly or somewhere, I'll be very happy if that happens. So this is the first point. Again, I don't want to talk too much on it. We've already covered this. I don't like this. Coming to the next one, the DRL. It is a very conventional looking DRL, right? Every bike has this. There is no differentiator. I really like the implementation which they have done on the Meteor 350. I wish they had done some sort of an outline thing, or they had done semicircles like what the Mad Dog lights come with. That would have been something very unique. Again, it's not an issue. It's something, in my opinion, that could have just been done better. Do you have anything to add at this point of time?
Yeah, I think it had a semicircle DRLs here, like how I have on my X-Pulse. That would have been,
That would have been
better.
nice.
Yeah.
This looks too mainstream.
Yeah.
This looks too mainstream.
Yeah.
Coming to the third one, again, I don't want to spend too much of time on this. This is something which we already covered. The gear lever, if I want to operate it with my heel, it's very far. I have to literally keep doing this. I have to keep doing this. I wish the implementation was something like on the Royal Enfields or on the Splendors or anything. So if any of the accessories guys are actually watching this video, this is a great opportunity. Make me a small lever, make me a usable lever with the toe press here and the heel press somewhere about here. You got a customer already, and I'm sure many like me will buy.
Yeah, I also heard, guys, I also heard that we can use the gear lever from Honda Shine. Somebody was mentioning it online. So
I didn't know this.
yeah, we can probably, that could be an alternative solution to this problem. Yeah.
Right. And the next one, I haven't found the back brake to be the best in the world. It's a bit squishy, it's a bit soft, it doesn't respond as immediately as the front one does. But it's again one of those things which could be very subjective, because Vinay was telling me that that's by design, that's not a flaw, that's actually how it's designed to work. 80-20 or something you're telling me, right?
So guys, as you guys know, when it comes to braking on the bike, especially with respect to disc brakes, it's always 80% of stopping power is provided by the front brakes and 20% by the rear brakes. So that's something which I have been following all through my riding experience on any bike I ride, be it KTM. What I've ridden, I've owned KTM 200 back in 2012, 2014 KTM Duke 390, and then back again with the Bullet, and then again I have owned the Interceptor also. In fact, we have owned Interceptor. That's going to be a different topic on why we sold Interceptor. We'll cover that later, but now let's go back to the points what we're talking about.
Sure. And the fifth one, I consider it as a major one actually. It is quite annoying and irritating. So the accessories, right? The crash guard, the engine guard, the patch here which actually saves the tank from the zippers on your
Tank pad.
Tank pad, exactly, that one. Then even the panniers, and what else are they making? Whatever else.
Yeah.
Guys, if somebody from Honda is watching, guys, seriously, this should be available with the bike. If you go to Royal Enfield, if you go to any other manufacturer, when ordering the bike, you tell them what accessories you want. When you take delivery of the bike, it's all fitted. You ride out of the showroom with the accessories. We are left begging. We are still waiting for the damn accessories to come. We are in Bangalore. I know that a few guys in the north have got it, especially the ones who are closer to Manesar, because that's where the whole thing gets manufactured. I think the guys in Gurgaon have got it. I've seen a few videos. We are still waiting. Honda, seriously, get your act together. It's just damn accessories. Why have you left me in the situation where if I drop the bike, something gets damaged? Why? Seriously, get your shit together. This was very irritating for me. It still irritates me. That is one. The next point is, we had a few minor glitches with the dealer actually. This is something I won't hold against Honda as a product. Very minor things. So for example, when we went to fix our number plates, the rivet which is necessary for the HSRP plates to be put in place, those were not available, and we were made to wait for a couple of hours. They went somewhere to the nearby automobiles market, they got it in, and even then my particular one was actually not fitted properly. So I'm still waiting for a replacement one to come. So it could have been see, look at this. So it's come like this, and it's a very bad way they have riveted this. So I've asked them for a replacement. I'm hopeful of getting one, and I'm just waiting. So, and PDI, there were a few issues which Vinay had. All this could have been a better experience, just a small one.
Agreed, guys. Definitely our buying experience is something which could have been much better, and trust me, I have had very great experiences, be it buying a KTM Duke 390 or even for that matter Interceptor. Royal Enfield could really give me amazing buying experience. So yeah, which I had expectations from Honda, but yeah, it was not so great.
Okay, the next one is again one which we have touched upon in the last video. The issue where the horn and the indicator is the other way around. Now this is something which I keep telling myself that I'll keep getting used to, and to some extent I get used to, but the problem is when I ride my KTM or I ride my Activa, my finger orientation gets confused. Again, I'll not get too much into this because we've spoken about this at length in the last video. And again, if any of the accessories guys are watching, if somebody makes some sort of a mod or an accessory which actually gives me the horn here and the indicator button here, you got my order. You got my order. Give me a seamless implementation of this. I'll buy this accessory from you. Because it's only Honda who does this, and somebody was telling me that probably Yamaha in a couple of models who does this. I had the CBR650F before this, and it annoyed me to no end using this setup on the CBR650F as well. I really don't like this, and I don't know why Honda does this. And this is not just my problem. There are reviewers in UK, Australia, US who have this similar complaint about Honda's placement of the switches. So that's one thing. Next is the mirror. So the mirror, I somehow find that this mirror is very flat, it's almost like my dressing room mirror. It's not an automobile mirror. There is not enough convexity. I cannot see a lot of the area behind me, right? It just looks like my dresser mirror. I don't know whether you felt that, Vinay. So
Yeah.
these things which I have put, these blind spot mirrors, which have a tremendous amount of convexity, these actually help me a lot, and I am literally able to see cars or vehicles which are right next to me. It's that good. And once I started using these, I have put these on almost all the vehicles I own. Really help a great deal. So that was one. And I personally find that after 90 or so, there is a bit of buzziness in the mirror. It's again not Royal Enfield levels of vibration, no, nowhere close to that, but it gets a bit vibey at those speeds, and probably that's attributed to the fact that it's a single cylinder engine. So all the buzziness somehow comes to the mirror, and it's a bit buzzy, not a deal breaker though. I can still see what's behind me, what's coming, what's going. Next one, the seat. So I felt the seat could have been a bit longer. So if you look at a Bullet, for example, the seat starts here and it probably comes till here. Okay, they could have done it because they've got so much of real estate here on the rear fender, which I feel is a wasted opportunity. And if you're somebody like me, you ride around with the family on this bike. So for example, I sit here in the front and I'm a big guy. If you look at me on the side also, I'm quite big. And if my 4-year-old daughter sits and my wife sits, it's maxed out. It's not really that comfortable. So on my Bullet 500, it's a very comfortable ride, even in this situation. So I am sitting here, my daughter in the middle and my wife in the back. It's very comfortable. This is a wasted opportunity, I feel, right? And staying on the topic of seats, I feel there was an opportunity where they could have done something creative with the seats. So for example, I could have had ribbed designs. I could have had diamond shaped designs. Something to make it a bit more fun rather than this plain looking seat. Although I like the color of the seat, I like that a lot. But they could have done a bit of designs as an option, right? Again, not a very big thing. I can get all this done somewhere in a local seat maker or something. But I feel that is something that could have been done. Okay. Now the next one, again a very subjective thing. I feel the bike has too much chrome for my liking. Way too blingy it looks. Here chrome, here chrome, here chrome. I would have liked to have an option of buying some sort of a matte black fender finish, both at the front and the rear. The fact that one doesn't even exist for me to order, bit of a missed opportunity, I would say, because not everybody is a fan of the blinged out look, right? I'm not. So that's another opportunity. The next one, it's again a very popular one which comes across to us from some of our audience as well. The color of the bike, this color, the black color, it should not be linked to the fact whether you're buying a DLX or a DLX Pro. I should have the option to buy the green color and still get the DLX Pro features like the 4-way switch and the Bluetooth features and all that. Right now, if I buy this color, I am not getting that. If I buy the dual variant, I necessarily get that, even though I may not want it. It should not be this way, because that's not how the options and accessories market really works with the other manufacturers, because you should be able to pick and choose, and that's what I believe is the case with Meteor, by the way. Meteor, you can literally customize whatever you want. And I was looking at Vikas Rachamala's video, and he says there is a subtle signature touch which they put on the Meteor. So for example, if Vinay orders a Meteor with the windshield and with a backrest and with a different seat combination, they actually put some sort of an emblem or a sticker here saying customized for Vinay Kumar. How about that? So nice, so nice. You have anything to add on all these points at this point?
Yeah, very valid points. I think I'm thinking about those things and thinking and realizing that, oh yeah, these are some things which could have been better. Yeah.
And continuing on the same theme, in the DLX variant, when I'm sitting and riding on the highway, and say for example, I want to see what's the range left to empty, or I want to toggle between what is the real-time fuel economy I'm getting, or what's the year-to-date fuel economy that I'm getting, whatever, or what is the distance which I've covered. If I want to do that, it's much more easier on the DLX Pro variant, because I've got the toggle switches here. Whereas with this, I actually have to reach over while I'm riding. I have to bend over. It's a bit of a bend, not very uncomfortable, to actually press this to toggle through the menus. So it's again a very minor niggle. It's not a showstopper, it's not a deal breaker, it's just a very minor niggle. Okay, the next one. This one can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on where you're coming from. But in the initial days when I bought this bike and I used to ride it around, I actually felt that the thump was really loud. Like these Indori Dholki type of silencers which you get on the Bullet, that loud. So some people like this, some people, it's a bit of an acquired taste for a few people, because you have to really wait and get adjusted to this. And my brother was actually behind me, and he said this bike is very loud. Over a period of time, it has settled down just a little bit. It's not as loud as it used to be in the initial days, because probably the engine has settled down a little bit. And the good thing is, it's a bit of an Easter egg feature. You can actually play with the sound. So you can actually play with the sound. You can actually play with the volume of the sound, and I'll tell you how. So if you're in a particular gear, if you want to go really smoothly, you can just